there's an on-off button in the upper left-hand corner underneath that flap. Yours is not on, Louise. Mr. Sharp will help you.
I need it.
Watch me now. See? You do this.
Oh, okay.
You press it until the light comes on.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Simple.
All right, everybody ready then? Having a quorum present, I'll call to order the February 13th meeting of the Historic Landmarks Commission. The first item on the agenda is public comment. Any member of the public may address the Historic Landmarks Commission on any subject that's not within our jurisdiction. Excuse me, that is within our jurisdiction, but not scheduled on this agenda. Seeing none, I'll close public comment and move to approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting of January 30th. Are there any additions, corrections, or clarifications on the minutes?
I'm not for approval.
Second?
We have a motion for approval of the January 30 minutes, a second by Sharp. Motion was made by Boucher. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Suding abstains from item 5. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstained
Yeah.
for the entire one.
I did have one small correction, sorry.
Oh, we're backing up.
Sorry.
That's
it's
all right.
very tiny.
Okay.
On page 5, it says where Mayor Louis Days talking, and it just said landmark and possibly for placement on the National Register.
Register, not
Yeah.
registry.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it.
Is the maker of the motion okay with that alteration?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a question. I was told by Mr. Lamone that there was a report on the trees at El Encanto,
I have a little bit of information on that.
and there's nothing mentioned in the minutes that he gave a report 2 weeks ago.
It was in the last minutes.
So I think I would like to know what went on.
Do we have a record of what Mr. Lamone spoke about 900 La Swain? 1900, beg your pardon.
He is going to be attending the meeting. We can ask him then.
Okay.
But it was not in the minutes. He thought it was, and it's not.
Was that wasn't January 30th, was it?
It was the last meeting, yes.
It was, okay. I remember it prior to that, the prior one.
I remember asking, but never getting an answer.
Okay. Okay. Please, Ms. Feliciano, check the 16th, January 16th and January 30th. Okay. So is the maker of the motion okay with the clarification on page 5? Boucher? You made the motion. Sharp, okay?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Again, I abstain from item 5.
Sharp abstains from item 4.
Orius abstains from all items. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar with scans.
Mr. Chair, item A at 2020 Alameda Padre Serra was indefinitely continued to the staff hearing officer with positive comments. Item B at 410 West Sola was indefinitely continued. Item C, 902 Chapala Street was final approval as submitted. Item D, 416 State Street was continued 2 weeks with a revised scope of work. There were some two additional items that the applicant has added to the plans, and since it wasn't on the agenda, it's been continued. And then item E at 1900 Les Wayne was final approval as submitted of that review after final, and those were all reviewed by Commissioner Sharp.
Question on E, Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
When we looked at the pool enclosure, we all made it very clear, and we were all under the impression that we were getting that 5-foot height requirement from the county health, that was required by the county health department. What happened?
They didn't have the 5-foot on one wall, and the county made them go from an open handrail to a solid handrail in another area because you could step up on something and hop over.
An open guardrail, or okay, so, all right, thanks. And then Suding abstains from item A and C. A and C. Have a motion to ratify the consent calendar?
Second.
Have a motion by Boucher, second by Fermina. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is announcements. Ms. Gatz.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Lavoy will be absent today. The project at Santa Barbara Club at 1105 Chapala Street, which was continued to today's meeting, has been postponed at the architect's request indefinitely. And then, I don't know if some of you watched City Council yesterday. They received an update on the Code of Conduct for advisory group members and adopted revised advisory group guidelines, which include additional Code of Ethics training requirements, and they address the Fair Political Practices Commission sole proprietor exemption. HLC training on those guidelines will occur at the meeting of February 27th. So we certainly want everybody to be there. And I will email Commissioner Lavoy. And that's all I have.
Ms. Gantz, wasn't that the meeting that I said I would not be able to attend? Or that I had to leave at 3?
Oh, yeah, it is. Yearly, yeah. So you will
I
need
have
to...
a prior engagement at Parks and
Right.
Rec.
Okay, well, I guess you'll have to watch the video of it.
Okay.
Because it's already been
I understand.
scheduled with city administrator and with community development director.
Okay.
Can't it happen before 3?
Excuse me?
Can't it happen before 3 o'clock?
It's gonna. Oh, you're leaving. No, you'll be here. It's gonna be like first on the agenda.
First on the agenda?
Yeah, I
Okay.
believe
So
so.
you'll make it.
1:45.
No, you don't have to
So
suffer
you will
it
be here.
twice.
Yeah,
February 27th.
And I want the commission to know that I did attend the council meeting yesterday, the hearing, and I begged them to be sensitive to the time commitment that we already all engage in. They listened, but they didn't necessarily act on that. So it's quite frightening the amount of time we are asked to spend more and more on our volunteer efforts.
And Ms. Gantz, I will not be here for that meeting.
You won't be at the meeting on the 27th?
I will not be.
Okay.
Be out of the country.
Well, he needs the most ethics training of all of us.
So you will need to view the video of that
Okay.
training. It's very important.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Okay,
really
any
very
other
important.
announcements?
I have a few.
Ms. Hernandez.
Staff was requested to just give an update of what the progress is on some of our items on the in our progress of accomplish things on the HRE. I do want to let you know that April 10th is scheduled the update for the potentials list that has been, they've been working on getting it, all the lists, the landmarks list, the structure of merit list, and the potentials list accurate with all the revisions that have happened over the past several years. They've been working on that for several years before I arrived, and we have the final list ready.
Oh,
and
yay.
that will be presented on April 10th.
That's great.
And I also have a new intern who has started, and we've already laid out a couple chapters with text of the new guidelines for the districts when they're passed. And I also have there's the historic district guidelines that Anthony was here. He showed you the styles that'll be attached with them. We have chapters for windows,
Great.
a chapter for doors, a chapter for alterations. And we also have, those are the main things I'm working on. And those were both part of the element that was recently.
Okay, there's 47 items on that element, so you
I
better
know.
get cracking.
I know, I'm working on it.
All right, any other?
Mr. Chair,
Let's hear
sorry,
Ms.
I just,
Gantz first.
since Commissioner Schallenberger missed the announcement, I'm going to repeat it. The City Council
love
received
this.
an update yesterday on the Code of Ethics, Code of Conduct for advisory group members, and adopted the revised advisory group guidelines, which includes the commission, the Fair Political Practices Commission sole proprietor exemption. So their HLC training, Jim Armstrong and Paul Casey will be doing training on February 27th at 1:45. So we're trying to get everybody to attend. Thank you.
Unless you have prior engagements, I need a commitment from everybody now that you're going to be there at that 1:45 meeting on the 27th.
I cannot give any commitments.
You know, it just occurs to me, I may be at a planning commission meeting. I have to check my calendar. I think I have to go to Montecito Planning Commission. So I'll watch the video if I
Okay.
can't
It
attend.
is better to be here face to face if you can.
Yeah, I
because
get
we
it.
can ask questions and we can have a dialogue as opposed
I'm
to just
pretty sure I'm
watching
at Planning Commission. It just
Okay.
occurs to me.
that. Okay.
I'll check my calendar.
Everybody down this end committed?
Yes.
Okay, and then you have a
Announcement, which is I would encourage everyone to drive down Garden Street from Mission all the way here, look at the flowering pear trees. Full bloom is just gorgeous. And then I have a question. Would you, if possible, comment on Tuesday a week's city council meeting? I think I had to leave early, but
Right.
I understand it.
I forgot what it was. Oh, the historic resource element?
Historic resources.
Right. Commissioner Murray, Commissioner Arias, and myself and Commissioner Drury attended the meeting for the adoption of the historic resource element. Commissioner Drury left early. We did talk about the prioritization of the 47 items that are on the workforce or the work list, really stressing the importance of using the existing information that we have so that it doesn't become obsolete, and really trying to focus the neighborhood preservation up a little bit higher on the list of tasks. If Commissioner Rios or Commissioner Murray wants to add anything, or if I missed something. Nope. Okay. Any other announcements?
Yes. Would you like
Ms.
to
Gantz.
debrief on the awards yesterday? Or Don, maybe? Or
Don, would you like to
like me
mention the
to?
awards?
I will if you don't.
Yeah.
If you're not prepared. Yesterday at City Council, the design awards were awarded, and one of the awards was to Callum DeForest. That was the St. Barbara Award for community service. Martha DeGasis won an award for the Lockwood DeForest Award for landscaping at the Historical Museum, and Mark Shields won the George Washington Smith Award for his very beautiful addition to a single-family residence.
And it should be noted that Martha DeGasis and Arcadia Studios were recognized for that award. Okay, any other announcements? Subcommittee reports, anyone? I have just one, and on February 7th, I attended the Street Tree Advisory Committee and got a bit of an update on the eucalyptus that are on Alvarado that are associated with 1900 LaSwain. Tim Downey, their urban forest superintendent, has been in touch with the Edison vegetation manager and has pleaded with them and discussed with them appropriate methods for trimming the eucalyptus that are conflicting with the power lines. He may or may not be able to supervise them and tell them, what they need to do, because they have very strict guidelines as far as clearance from the power lines. However, wanted the commission to know that the urban forest superintendent has it very high on his radar.
How about the replacement?
There was no mention of the replacement for the trees that were downed. It wasn't really their purview, Street Tree Advisory Committee's purview, to talk about that. We still don't have an application for that. We should be leaning on the owners of 1900 LaSwain to get that application in so that we can review the loss of those trees and what appropriate replacements should be. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a miscellaneous action item, resolution of intention for 800 Alvarado Place, formerly 1900 LaSwain. Ms. Hernandez.
Yes, this is a resolution of intent to have a public hearing on March 13th to designate the El Encanto Hotel site as a city historic district. The site is historically significant for its craftsman vernacular cottages designed by Windsor Sewell and Russell Ray, Spanish colonial revival cottages designed by Edwards Plunkett and Howell, and for its landscaping designed by Charles Frederick Eaton. And there will be a presentation and the hearing on the March 13th, should you pass this resolution.
Great. Okay. Somebody want to?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Second. Have a motion by Arias, a second by Sharp. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Murray.
In light of the tree that since this is, this designation will include where the trees have been, were taken out. And is there a body that we can request, do we have to request to the owners to do the tree replacement? Is that the process or?
Mr. Lamone, I believe, has put that request forth to them.
Okay.
We are just waiting for them to respond.
Okay. Gotcha.
Do they have a certain time frame that they need to respond, Mr. Lamone? No? Okay.
Well,
So that request has been
okay, thank you.
out there. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 2, the 0 block of West Mason Street. This is a project design review of a proposal to replace the structurally deficient Mason Street Bridge over Mission Creek and increase channel capacity in accordance with the approved 2001 Lower Mission Creek Flood Control Canal Project. All right. The last time this was seen was June 6th.
Mr. Chair?
Just 1 minute, Mr. Lamone. Let me read the minutes.
No, I would like
You
to
wanna go?
speak before the minutes.
Go ahead, Mr. Lamone.
The reason staff would like to speak is to put the right context of what's before you today, because some of the minutes pertain to some issues that you raised regarding the configuration of this intersection, some concern about the bridge width, and the function of Kimberly Avenue. And I wanted to give you an update that's contained somewhat in our memo to the commission.
Great.
That before the applicants get into the specifics of responding to your requests, I wanted to give you an update on what council decided. Basically, because of your input as well as other concerns expressed, the issue of decreasing the bridge width was placed before City Council, as well as the issue of whether Kimberly Avenue should be a one-way or two-way street. And essentially what City Council decided is to give the authority to the city engineer to pursue an appropriate design. That the authority was placed on that, understanding that there may not be exemptions granted. And so what's before you today is essentially a final design configuration as determined by the city engineer, and that the elements that we're suggesting are before you today is to approve a bridge rail alternative. There's several alternatives that will be presented to you today. Specific review of the landscape plan, which may include the texture of the channel walls, and that you consider project design approval. That is our recommendation to you today, and we have specific experts here if you have specific questions about the design that's being presented.
Okay, before we start off, Mr. Black, are these plans different than what was submitted?
No.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted it unfolded.
Okay. He rolled out a full plan, different or rolled instead of folded. Okay, so the motion on June 6, 2012 was continued 2 weeks with the following comments. Extend the landscaping toward the corner of Kimberly and Mason Streets. Size the boulders correctly in preparation for storm events. Study the terminus of the bridge rails, making them more substantial. Study guardrail treatment to make the proposed material look like wood. The Commission is in support of an open rail bridge design, but what is being proposed is not acceptable and should conform to El Pueblo Viejo guidelines. The bridge should be made as narrow as possible so that it is consistent with the residential neighborhood setting. That was an 8-0 vote. If you would please introduce yourselves to the record and give us a brief presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is John Awasiak, Principal Civil Engineer for the Public Works Department. With David Black from David Black Landscaping and Tom Conti from Bengal Engineering. And I'll hand it over to David soon. But
You're on. You're good.
I would like to give you a brief recap, just because it has been since June that we have been before the HLC. And so the project continues to be improved, and thanks as a result to the boards and commissions, including the HLC, for their input on the project. And so just to reiterate, the existing span of Mission Creek is approximately 35 feet, and it'll be widened to be 55 feet to match the Lower Mission Creek Flood Control Project in the vicinity. So of key importance is the project geometry.
Excuse me, I'm going to stop you right there. Could you move that microphone a bit closer to your face?
Sure. How is that?
Technical difficulties.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm
Okay.
watching staff and watching what's happening here, so go ahead.
All right. So of key importance is the project geometry, which is now established, including the determination of the sidewalk widths and maximizing the habitat expansion zone and vegetated slopes on the creek banks. And we have this project has resulted in the narrowest bridge width that meets the city, state, and federal design standards. One of the most significant issues has been the width of the Kimberly Bridge. And now that this issue has been resolved, as Mr. Lamont mentioned, the bridge has now got a confirmed width of 49.5 feet. And at the July 17, 2012 City Council meeting, Council also confirmed that Kimberly Avenue shall remain a two-way street, and that reported to Council that an open bridge rail design was being pursued to strive to attain the minimum bridge width. So in September of 2012, two HLC members, Commissioner Drury and Arias, were appointed as the ad hoc committee to work with staff on the open bridge rail feasibility design. And a technical study was completed and concluded that the open bridge rail design does not meet the site distance standards that would allow a 43-foot wide bridge, as was being pursued. So at the October 10th, 2012 HLC meeting, the ad hoc committee then reported back to the HLC, and there was a question regarding whether stop signs could be added to assist in the narrowing the bridge to the 43-foot. Staff has investigated that and concluded that the stop signs would not meet the warrants, and therefore that would not lend to a 43-foot wide bridge design. So the narrowest bridge that we can get approved that will meet the city, state, and federal standards to keep our grant funding alive is the 49.5-foot width. So I'll turn the presentation over to David to give you an update on the information as outlined in the previous motion and the project updates.
I've got a question for you because the question has come up before. What does not meet warrants mean?
To add a stop sign or stop signs to an intersection, there needs to be criteria that is met, or there needs to be findings that need to be made. So we just don't, stop signs just aren't inserted or three-way stop in this case, are just not inserted at any intersection because we would like to do so. There needs to be an analysis and criteria by which that would be applied. And Mr. Bailey, Derek Bailey, our traffic engineer, is here, but I can tell you that is his strong recommendation and conclusion that stop signs, a three-way stop sign will not occur at this intersection.
Thank you. Mr. Black, continue, please.
Thank you. I have a number of sheets here that reflect many of the design elements that are being proposed as part of this submittal. This sheet here represents essentially the landscape plan that's being proposed. It's not unlike what you've seen in past meetings. It just represents the latest geometry. Specifically, the location of the creek walls at these locations. This is the limit of the work on both sides. Obviously, there's expanded habitat zone on the east side. We are planting, as we've indicated before, additional box-size sycamore trees on the west side, on the Romasana property, as well as the, which I guess will be city-owned property at this location here around this existing house. The plant palette has already been approved. It's consistent, or will be consistent, with the approved EIR and with Creek's division input as well. Oh, I would point out too a few things. One is there will be three proposed light standards. There'll be the standard city State Street fixtures at these three locations. We are indicating to brick paving, which will be part of the La Entrada development along Mason Street, BL brick, and this is where it will terminate in colored concrete at the handicap ramps. These are elevations. I believe we showed them to you the last time we were here back in June. It basically reflects what both the east and the west bank elevations will look like. We've indicated the boulders, and it's our understanding that the boulders, size-wise, because I know that was one of the comments, will be in the 2 to 3 foot diameter size. And they're illustrated here and labeled as, at least in this location, rockfish baffles. But you can see sort of the basic layout as it looks in elevation. This drawing up here indicates the disposition of the proposed vertical creek walls. The walls will be consistent with what's been done in Reach Run 1A, which is the section downstream of Mason Street that was built most recently. Here's a photograph of how it turned out. I will point out, because I know that, for myself anyway, the end product in this particular project, as far as the texture of the walls, really didn't turn out to be the way we wanted it to be. And one of the reasons, there's a lot of technical reasons, but one of the reasons was it was a construction approach using shotcrete. And I think we found during the course of construction that shotcrete is difficult to texture to make it look like, chiseled sandstone. And but in response to that, we are offering for this particular project, the general look in terms of the modular size of the blocks and the size of the caps and what have you are going to be very similar. But the actual texturing we're going to be using, gunite and not shotcrete, which, according to the sculptor that was employed for this particular project, is a lot easier to work with, and we have every hope that the end product will be a significant improvement over what was done here. I've indicated too that I think it'd be important to get samples well in advance, not a week in advance that we had for this particular project, but maybe a month in advance, and then we would welcome anybody from the commission to come down and be a part of the review.
What are you serving?
Depends on the time of day.
Okay. Let's make it an evening cocktail.
Okay. So I just wanted to put that out there because I know that there may be those that were not as enamored of the finished product, and I wasn't either. But we have every intention of making it better, and you'll certainly be a part of the approval process when the samples are submitted. So that being said, these elevations indicate the proposed wrought iron railing. For purposes of this plan, downstream of the Mason Street Bridge we're proposing the post rail with spear points and ball finials on the posts, not unlike what you saw in that photograph here. Here's actually, this is actually a better picture of it. Whether we ended up making it Malaga green, I think we've indicated Malaga green. That was actually something that the Romasanas had pursued and actually funded. And it's very handsome, obviously, so it may be something that would be consistent up and down the creek. Upstream, at least for now, although this is somewhat in conflict from what you'll see from County Flood Control, because they are going to be showing you the upstream segment immediately adjacent to this project, and they're actually showing this design. So because both of them have already been approved by the commission, I don't think it's going to be a problem if we end up using this upstream. Yeah, and I should point out, this is the approved railing for Chapala, so, we're going to have to sort of examine, how and where they interface and whether, I don't want two different railings interfacing. So if there's a logical break, like somebody's backyard where there's wood fences, and, then we'll do that. But we have to study that a little bit. But for purposes of this presentation, we're showing you both. But this for sure will be the downstream design. Okay. This sheet shows all the site sections, primarily on the east bank, starting with 3 of them up on Kimberly. Shows you the sort of the configuration of the bank with the boulders, the planting areas, and then as we progress downstream, here's the expanded habitat wetland zone, emergent wetland zone, just below the bridge, just downstream of the bridge, and then the off section as we reach further down. We've indicated this the State Street standard State Street fixture, Malaga Green, of course, and I've already showed you the locations. Now, one item that we haven't discussed in past meetings at any length is the proposed bridge railings. The city is proposing the bridge railing that is currently at Ortega, the Ortega Bridge, and I have a photograph of it just for memory, but that was the one that was constructed most recently. We've also come up with a couple of, alternatives relative to the relative openings in the bridge railing themselves, just as part of a design exercise. But there was a part of me that said, well, let's just do something a little different. And I've actually seen this look in fences and walls and in Spanish homes, and I just thought, well, we'll try it and put it out there. The bottom alternative is sort of a modified open rail steel railing that we brought the last time. The one we showed you before was actually a standard Caltrans barrier rail, and we've modified it somewhat to be more consistent with what we feel to be more consistent with the district. This would all be steel construction. You can see the posts with finials, and there'll be a little bit of molding. There'll be concrete pilasters at either end, which would form the terminus for the wrought iron fencing that would come from either direction. There are ways, and we've already explored this just for purposes of this exercise, to color this, with chemical treatments to make this look like wood. So we're just putting it out there because it was something that we showed you the last time. I know not everyone was on board, particularly I think Bill Lavoie was not enamored of it, but anyway,
He's not here.
we put it out there. So, and then these are the details. Actually, the same details that were used for Reach 1A downstream of Mason. It reflects the modules, the size and the height and width modules that we used in Reach 1A, and also reflects the historic stone walls that are up at the proposed Chapala Street Bridge at the train station. So that's on board here.
We don't have anything more.
We have something more to look at.
Okay.
So just to further illustrate what's being proposed as part of this presentation, we
You'll
have
need to move that microphone closer to your face.
we have some computer renderings from different angles, and I think they go a long ways. I know we learned from Chapala, where we showed some computer renderings there, that these can be very effective in terms of communicating what's being proposed design-wise. So there are actually two sets, one with the concrete bridge rail, different angles. But it also shows the creek planting, expanded habitat zones.
If I may interrupt, just so everybody gets their orientation.
Yeah, sorry.
State Street would be this direction. This is Mason Street.
It is.
This is Kimberly Avenue.
Yeah. The Triangle Park is at this location, and this is the Ramasana property to the south and west. Here's a sort of at-grade view. I think shows a lot.
So this is looking towards West Beach from State Street. So Kimberly there.
Yeah, this nicely reflects, this is the existing home that would be retained. And then here's a sort of more of an in-creek view. And you can see how the textured sandstone material, wraps under the bridge around, which I think is nice. And then we did go through the same exercise, not really even expecting that the commission would favor this particular bridge rail, but it has an interesting look to it.
Actually, if you could go to the equivalent of this one.
Sure. It's interesting because I just took this photograph this morning.
Okay, everybody get a shot of that. And then there's this. If I pull it back and forth really fast, I can get people before after.
Interestingly, I will point out that on Ortega, which is in a residential neighborhood, as you are probably aware, the outside rail-to-rail dimension there is 60 feet. This is proposed. This project is proposing, and here's Ortega, but this is proposed at 49.5. So just for comparison purposes, and it's a very sort of, small-scale residential neighborhood. But I just thought, for your benefit, you might be interested in that.
Same width.
No. Narrower.
Much narrower. 11 feet.
11
narrow.
feet.
11 feet narrower. Mason Street is 11 feet.
Okay,
Yeah, 10.5, sorry.
Ortega is what?
This
60 feet outside.
Oh,
outside.
okay. I thought I heard 49.6.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was paying attention.
Same rail. But
Anything else?
I believe that would conclude
The camera swing to include both sides of the bridge on the screen, please.
Oh, move the picture. How's that? I think it's easier than getting the camera to swing. All right. So I will open public comment, and we have two members of the public wishing to speak. The first one is Mark Romasanta. Mr. Romasanta, if you'd please come to the front. You may use that microphone on that end of the table.
Hello, I'm Mark Romasanta. Hello, I'm Mark Romasanta, representing my family's trust, the Romasanta Family Trust.
Welcome.
Thank you. We've watched this project go through the process. I think John and his team have been very diligent and very patient, trying to work with everybody's concerns, including ours regarding our future development that you guys have seen and will see again. I think the bridge details themselves should be left to you guys as far as the rails. The stone walls that are in place below this reach that were done in front of our property, if you walk them and look at them, I think they look very nice. Could the finish have been a little more chiseled or a little more professional looking? It could have, but when you take concrete and try and make it look like stone, sometimes it looks worse when you're trying to actually make faux stone. So whether or not it matches what's downstream exactly or not, again, is up to you guys. But I think what was designed by County Flood turned out very nice. I think the rail turned out very nice. So I would hope that you guys can help resolve the last details and move the project along. I know County Flood wants to get their portion of it done, they can't get it done without the bridge. So I appreciate all your help. Thank you very much.
Can I ask you one question? Do you have a preference on the rest?
On the rails?
Yeah.
I think they both look good from a different point of view. I think the slatted metal that could look like wood might look a little more residential. But in the same token, we have stone and concrete rails all over the city. So I was actually impressed with how good the faux metal wood one looks in the photographs. Whether it turns out that nice, who knows? Computers generate better pictures than you can actually build at times. But I think either one would be appropriate down there. I think what's important is the scale, that it doesn't get too heavy. So again, I think they've done a great job, and I support what they're doing, and we're happy to be part of it as far as planting where we can and helping beautify the area. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Onosanta. Mr. DeForest?
Yeah. Good afternoon. I'm a little hard of hearing, so I may not have gotten it right. Is the bridge to be the roadway, the roadbed width to be 49.5 feet?
No.
That's the width. That's from
32.
one side of Mission Creek to the other. That's a big jump from the current 24.5 feet that the roadbed is today. So why does it need to be so wide? Because that was a issue before this commission as this project has been going along, has gone through the process. Also, I want to know, and I seem to have disappeared here, why do they need, because the importance of a vegetation along the creek bed is vegetation along the creek bed is important to maintain the creek. Therefore, why is it necessary to have a sidewalk on the west side of Kimberly? I would think, and Kimberly should have no parking, and Kimberly should be as narrow as possible to increase the vegetation. Thank you.
Okay, I will close public comment, bring it to the commission for questions. Commissioner Drury, do you have any questions? Commissioner Boucher, any questions? Commissioner Sharp?
No.
Commissioner Murray?
Yeah. Did the city council have any? Did they comment anything on the railing or no? No. Thanks.
Commissioner Rios, questions?
Thank you. I want to go back to the analysis and the warrants and the criteria. I understand that you have a certain standards to meet and things like that, but it would be very helpful if a copy of those standards could be given to our commission. Because in my experience in dealing with neighborhoods and on the planning commission and here, the criteria has come up and the warrants have come up, and I've never seen actual written documentation of what it consists of, and I would very much like to have a copy of it. Excuse me.
Mr. Wozniak?
Derek is,
All I want is a copy.
He doesn't want to.
I would appreciate it because it will help us in making some of the decisions if we understand what you're working under. Because in looking around my neighborhood, I found intersections exactly like this that have the stop sign that I had suggested. And
Mr. Wozniak,
Excuse me,
would you please
I'm-
give Commissioner Rios your full attention?
I don't mean to interrupt you all. So as I said, I am walking in my neighborhood. I found at least 3 intersections that are this heavy traffic and have the same sort of thing. So I would like to have the documentation, please.
Mr. Chair, staff has agreed to provide the copy. And
Thank you.
If Mr. Bailey may
Mr.
have
Bailey,
just a quick
would you
comment.
need to add anything to that?
No.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions, Commissioner Rios?
No, that
Okay.
is my concern. It's for my education.
Great. Commissioner Winnick?
Yeah, a couple questions. Mr. Stone, first question I have is the description about the, I'm forgetting the terminology, but the two different kinds of faux concrete.
Shotcrete versus
gunite, thank you.
Gunite.
And I'm kind of curious, on the, just if you happen to know, on the 405, you'll see a lot of work going on is when driving to LA. Do you know if that's shotcrete or gunite? What do you think they're using for the faux stone that they're doing there?
I'm almost sure it's gunite. Because I believe the fellow that worked on this did that work down there by the Getty. And yeah.
I actually don't find it objectionable. That's why I'm asking. But okay, because I mean, it seems to me that it's reasonably successful. Second question I had was, I'd like to hear your opinion in terms of, and thank you for doing those studies on the railings. And I think for me, I know it's not comment period, but I'm really only interested in two of the railings. The initial concrete one that you showed that's, as the other one in the neighborhood on Ortega, and then also this new one that's the horizontal metal railing. So I'm curious on those, your personal opinion between the two, now that you've done the study, which of those two do you like better, would like to propose
Excuse me,
to
the city
to the
TV
commission?
could zoom out, please. Go ahead, Mr. Winnick.
Well, I think I made my point. I'd really like to know your personal opinion as you're the designer on the project.
Mr. Winnick, I don't have any particular preferences. I think because having sat on this commission for 6 years myself, I have a certain appreciation for things historic, and it just seems that any and all of the bridge railings that were built over Mission Creek in the teens and early 20s are all cast concrete, and so it's always been my thought that we ought to go in that direction just to preserve some sort of historic context for the historic district. So.
Okay, thanks. And by the way, I apologize, I called you Mr. Stone instead of Mr. Black.
Blackstone.
Getting very confused. Thank you.
Commissioner Schallenberger, questions?
Sure. First for staff, is it my understanding from the explanation at the beginning that we have no purview over the width?
Yeah. The tree has been set.
Okay. And then as far as the railings, there's no open railings are not allowed. That's the issue per the standards? These knockouts that were shown on the Ortega Bridge are not possible here, correct? Just for clarification.
No, they're permitted.
Sorry.
I thought I heard that you could not have these
all have
knockouts.
openings.
They do have the openings.
Yeah.
Okay.
These would be open.
Good. Okay.
Here.
Thank you.
Those would be open. Those would be open. And
Just like
obviously
that.
that's open.
Just like that photograph.
4-inch, probably sphere thing.
Right.
Any other questions?
No.
Commissioner Jury, did you formulate questions?
Yes, just for clarification, the width and the span are completely different. So the width is 49.5 feet. The span is what?
55 feet.
Thank you.
Just so everybody is on board with that,
Yes.
the width is from
Rail to rail?
rail to rail. The span is from creek bank to creek bank.
Thank you. Is there any suggestion that if the direction we went was that horizontal railing to number 4?
Mr. Lamone, could you make sure his microphone's on?
And
Testing.
I don't know. Should I stop talking until it's...
Yes.
His mic is really far. Pull it up higher.
Hello?
Yep.
Oh, it's my beard, I guess.
Or what's hiding in it.
Yeah, hiding in the shadows. Is there a suggestion that could be, instead of making it fake wood, but Malaga green instead?
Mr. Chair,
And
the color and texture are at discretion.
And all the railings are of a specific height, and what is that?
42 inches.
42 inches. 42 inches.
42 inches. Well, I was going to suggest that the computerized scale, that are very, very tall people walking across the bridge.
You're thinking about this person?
That's an 8-foot tall woman.
No.
No.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, thank you.
Why, did you want to?
You know her well.
No, I don't know her yet.
All right. Any other questions from the commissioners?
I do have one.
Yes, Commissioner Sharp.
To clarify, the width, I understand it to be 49.6, out to out.
That's correct.
Earlier, 5 minutes ago, it was stated rail to rail.
Well, outside of rail to outside
I
of rail.
understand, but
Let's just be
I
clear.
wanted
It
to
is
clarify
outside
that
of rail
for the
to
record.
outside of rail. Road width is 32. That gives us an 8'6" sidewalk on one side and a 6-foot sidewalk on the other side. That's right. Okay. And don't add up those numbers because they will not come up to 49.6. All right. 49 and a half. I did have a couple of questions. If we could go to LP3.
That's a good question.
Is it possible to maintain a lesser height wall at the top of the slope so that it's consistently, say, 6 inches or 8 inches, but that it doesn't vary from, say, a foot to maybe 2.5 feet or whatever that height may be? Is that possible to maintain a consistent height with grade?
The heights of the wall are from the Army Corps project, and they're specific to the amount of freeboard that's required for the flood conveyance. So those are fairly, they're set in stone.
Or shotcrete. Or shotcrete. Or gunite.
Or gunite.
Whatever.
Mr. Wozniak, are we, as a city, using the Domus fixtures on side streets and reserving the State Street fixtures for State Street?
Mr. Chair, good question. The Entrada project on Mason Street, and it's consistent with the other side streets, just one block off of State Street.
Okay.
They all have the State Street fixture
Up until the next
block. So we stayed consistent with that on Mason. We do have the option here, or believe there's the option here, of putting a Domus in this location on Kimberly, as it would be the fixture on Kimberly. But for consistency, looking down the street from State Street, we thought the 3 would make sense here. But we're open to the suggestion of a Domus at the Kimberly location.
Could that Kimberly fixture move further north so that it's not in the same view shed as these fixtures?
The location of the fixture is set to maximize the benefit of the fixture, which is to illuminate the roadway for the vehicles and the pedestrians. So there is some flexibility as to how far to move it, and we would explore that. If it's beneficial to move the fixture slightly to be out of the view shed, we may be able to accomplish that with the new Roma Santa hotel that's going in. So if that's an aesthetic issue, we could certainly work with that.
And obviously the placement there doesn't work if I'm understanding your ramps correctly.
Right.
Okay. Mr. Black, how did you come up with the spacing on some of your larger plant material, like Atriplex, which is the big salt bush, and the Heteromeles, which is the toyon? Is that dictated by some sort of biologist revegetation requirement?
No, it's just based on what we that we know the height and spread of particular plants are, and
I'll reserve comment then.
Yeah.
2 more questions. Can molds be used on the texture or for the texture of the sandstone walls? So can you take a mold of genuine sandstone? We have great examples of them in the creek. You can use those to achieve a sandstone finish.
I don't really know the answer to that question. I know that's something that I inquired about during the construction of Reach 1A, but that's certainly something we will pursue, at least that opportunity, whether it's a latex mold or some sort of, hand tool.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the last one is, just so that I'm clear, The fittings that are proposed on the railing, can you describe those?
Yeah, sure. It's all 2-inch pipe.
So,
and,
go ahead.
You know, and those are all T-fittings, cross fittings.
Okay.
Again, has been approved by this body already.
Okay, so
Yes.
very much similar to like a WPA type.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, comments from the commission. We'll start with Commissioner Schallenberger.
Can I see the Ortega photo again?
I think it's in front of Commissioner Sharp.
No, thank you.
You uncovered it after I came back.
So I think the answer, all we're trying to do today, as far as I can tell, is look at the rail designs. I mean, everything else seems to be taken out of our hands. So
As far as width and yes.
yeah. But so we've looked at the landscape a number of times, and I think that's all supportable. And really, any of the rail options, I could go with commission on however we go. But I actually applaud the idea of some creativity, the keyhole design here. I mean, a replication and rubber stamping that doesn't take any creativity at all. So I would encourage you to pursue some creativity here. It might be nice to have something different for once. But and then as far as the matching the lower reach on the walls, and I think the application I can support as submitted. But the bigger issue, really, to me, is the width. I mean, I almost think just procedurally, and this isn't to be combative, but this is not an appropriate size, mass, bulk, and scale, and it impacts the adjacent historic resources to the point where I almost feel like we have no choice but to not grant project design approval and have it go to City Council for them to approve, since it's been taken out of our purview. I mean, this does not meet the project compatibility analysis, and you're not living up to your charter if you support something that isn't compatible. So maybe it's just a procedural thing, or I don't know. I don't know of any other process to get around something that isn't compatible.
So just so I understand you correctly, and the rest of the commission and the audience understands you correctly, you're saying that the commission would most likely not be able to make the historic resource finding or the compatibility findings because of its location adjacent to a registered landmark, i.e. the Hotel Californian?
Correct, and neighborhood compatibility.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Winnick?
Okay, I think I differ from my fellow commissioner here. Anyway, I do feel that we can find that this is compatible, especially if we look at some of the precedences of the other bridges that have been approved. And I appreciate the presentation that was made today. I do appreciate that efforts were made. I think if we look at the beginning of this project to now, although it may not have the road width we were looking for, it has improved over what we first saw. And I've noticed that one of the sidewalks is narrower than it was originally proposed. So I think it has made strides. And I also understand this has made it to council along the way and has come back to us. So I think, in essence, we've already been through those steps. I very much appreciate the notion that the faux stone will be sampled with adequate time ahead of schedule so that it can really be done well. I would encourage that the commission be invited, but I also, look to the professional involved, Mr. Black, that, in fact, that you'll make a good call on that. And I appreciate that you even raised the issue to bring it to our attention in the first place, that you'd like to see the standard improved beyond what was done at Reach 1A. So that already gives me comfort to know that you're on top of that. And in terms of the railings, although, there could be an argument about saying that all the neighborhood railings are the same, I actually like the one that's the horizontal railings. And whether it be faux painted wood or just the green, and I never remember the name of the green.
Malaga.
The Malaga green. would work for me. I think that it has a little more of a residential scale, just the nature of how it looks, and I actually like variation. I don't think that everything needs to be the same. So anyway, that would be my weigh in on that. The rest of it, I think, makes good sense. I was a little confused by how the railings do get resolved of the picket railing versus the one that's made out of the pipe rails, the sort of pipe rails, where that gets settled. So hopefully that'll get settled somewhere down the line. Okay. So I could be, make a motion to approve this project after we get through the comments.
Commissioner Rios?
I think it would be important for the commission to look at the samples of the stone, and I would hope that an invitation would be issued to us with ample enough time. I'm wondering if the elimination of the parking on Kimberly might not be a good idea also in assisting. It was suggested, I believe, by Commissioner Drury.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
As far as the railing, I think I like the one that looks like the wood, and I would think that does better for the neighborhood. It makes it more neighborhood-like. I still remain concerned about the bridge and the traffic that will be generated on the bridge and the effect that it will have on the surrounding neighborhood. And since this is neighborhoods that we are looking at for districts and things like this, I think you have to be sensitive to what traffic does to neighborhoods in the way of actually changing the livability of the neighborhood. But since most of it has been taken out of our hands, that's the way it is. I look forward to getting the information about the Warrens.
Let me understand your parking comment. Could you
I would
repeat that?
refer to Mr. Drury
Okay.
on it. I believe you made the comment.
Okay, and I'll get to Mr. Drury in a minute.
I think that would open up the street more and make it more operational for the traffic and for the pedestrians and all.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Schallenberger?
I needed a comment with regard to this width issue before I move on. One thing that's always troubled me in all of these reviews is I've never seen an overlay of the existing street over this plan to show even just a dashed line of where of what the existing looks like, regardless of dimension. If you just look at it in plan view, how much wider it is. In addition to that, the renderings, which are very beautiful and do a lot to show what the project will look like in its final analysis. Again, if you had a dashed line seeing that the change in the cross-sectional view, dashed lines to show the existing bridge width with the existing railings, that's where all the context comes from in terms of the neighborhood compatibility in a neighborhood context. And I don't know if it was by design or by error or omission that we never saw that, but I asked for it a year ago, and to my knowledge, it's never been shown or demonstrated, and I think it's one of the reasons why it's gone forward to City Council. They're not seeing that. They don't see how much different it is, so why wouldn't they approve it? But to me, it does change the area, and I don't think for the better. So it's just a point that I needed to make before we move on. It was information that was not shown that was requested, and it might have affected the review. It might not have. There's obviously a lot of constraints that Mr. Wozniak is dealing with, but it is information that was requested that wasn't shown.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Murray?
I'm going to pass to the next
Commissioner Sharp?
Excuse me. Well, I think the landscaping is good and adequate. I think that the replacement of the existing sycamore has been met, our requirements for that. I would like to see further study on the horizontal rail, possibly not having every dimensioned exactly the same, but varying, go from 4 to a horizontal member that's more than just 4. And try and get some variation. And my other comment is that I agree completely with Mr. Schallenberger that we're giving project approval, which includes the width of the bridge, and they ran around us to the council, and that's perfectly okay to do that because it worked. But I cannot vote for the project, which is so out of scale, and to compare it to a 60-foot Ortega bridge is ludicrous to me. Thank you.
Commissioner Boucher.
Well, I just have one comment to make, and it's about using a mold for the post sandstone. I think the Alta Rail used to be sandstone wall on Channel Drive in front of the Biltmore has turned out very poorly. It was made out of molds, and everything is the same all the way down the line. And I find that really offensive, because that was a beautiful, beautiful wall.
Commissioner Drury.
I would agree with about the sandstone. First of all, I'd like to comment favorably on your presentation. Appreciate the work. I'd like to see that whatever the result is of that, the wall along Mission Creek, not look like the Venetian in Las Vegas. There needs to be something there has to be in this world something less fake looking than that. I like the landscaping. I think that's. I'm glad that there's. I like to see more sycamore. You know, I fought hard for that little clump of sycamore. I think they're quite beautiful. And I would support the metal rail. I think it should be painted Malaga green. It's lighter. I'm afraid that we're going to, since it's been taken out of our hands, that the bridge is going to be the width that it is presented. So I would like to see the lightest possible looking rail on top of it. And the reason I think we spent so much time is partly because of lack of information, as Commissioner Schallenberger said, and also because it's only a block off State Street. There's no other bridge uptown that is as close to State Street as the Mason Street Bridge. And it's in direct view of people going up and down State Street. And it's a huge bridge that leads to a very small and attractive and historic neighborhood. And although I'm putting my 2 cents in for the railing, the metal railing, I cannot support the project as presented. Thank you.
Okay, I'll make my comment and then I'll try to sum up.
Chair,
Commissioner Rios?
may I ask, you didn't respond about the parking on Kimberly.
Kimberly, I don't really have an opinion. I think it's fine as it is.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So I do have an opinion. I think it's fine as it is.
My only comment is, Mr. Black, study the spacing on your larger plant material, such as the Salix, Laciolepis, and the Toyon. Sure. Okay. So far, I'm hearing that 3 people won't or cannot support the project as designed, and I want to urge those commissioners to reconsider their vote or their potential of voting, just because we really need to move forward on this project, and I don't want you to feel like you have to vote for it just because we need to move forward on this. I agree that the commission was, with all due respect, cheated out of what was promised to us or what was presented to us with a narrower bridge width. From the get-go, it was promised to us that we could be 32 somewhere in that neighborhood, and that's not what we're getting. I understand why we're there. So that being said, I'm going to sum up the comments and then we're going to look for a motion and a vote.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner gets preference. Mr. Drury.
I understand from the subcommittee meetings that these widths and heights and so on are really driven by the funding that is federal, and there is some elements there that have driven this particular width. Is my understanding? Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, thank you, Mr. Drury. Staff has made a commitment to deliver the narrowest bridge that we can get approved and funded. The funding for this project is federal grant funding to the tune of approximately just over $11 million. And the construction and the right-of-way phases of the grant funding are 100% grant funding with no city match. We are talking about the issue of the width is driven by the grant funding. Staff has made a commitment to get the narrowest bridge that we can to get a $11 million funded project. And staff has done that.
And Mr. Wozniak, we do appreciate that. My point is, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but my point is that we were shown something in the neighborhood of 32 feet, I believe, in the beginning. Okay, then I'm wrong and I will not continue. 43 feet. Okay. For whatever reason, it has to get wider. I know the reasons. I understand the reasons. I believe the commission understands these reasons as well. We're just somewhat dismayed and let down that we're not where we should be and where we had originally believed we would be. So it seems that the majority of the board supports the horizontal metal railing, either in a painted finish or a wood finish. Let me finish with the comments. Provide a sample of the faux sandstone wall well in advance of installation. Resolve the joining of the two fence styles. There's a concern about the traffic on this bridge and what it does to the livability of the neighborhood. An overlay of the existing bridge in plan shall be provided. Study the landscape, study the spacing on the planting of the larger landscape material. Study varying the horizontal rail spacings on the bridge rail. Study placement of the fixture on Kimberly Avenue to be out of view of the Mason Street, State Street fixture. I got all the roads in there. I'm sorry. To be out of view of the Mason Street, State Street fixture. I don't know how else to say it.
Street style.
State Street style. Okay. State Street style fixture.
Good show. You
All
got
right.
the stone. You got the stone, right?
The faux sandstone wall, provide a sample well in advance. Yeah, I have that. Is there anything else that I missed or that anybody wishes to add? And I'll look for a motion.
Ask for clarification. I didn't understand the request for this overlay. I know Mr. Schallenberger had asked for some, but at this stage of the design, what purpose would that serve?
If Mr. Schallenberger doesn't want that comment, and I'm willing to strike it.
Oh, no, just strike it. It's
Okay,
fine.
we don't need it.
Thank you.
I try to get everybody's comments in, at least a sampling of everybody's. All right.
Are we seeking design approval? Is this the motion that we're
This is
seeking?
here for project design approval. Yes, it is.
Because there's quite a lot of comments for design approval.
Then you don't have to give it project design approval. I'm looking for a motion.
Well, I would like to give the project, I'd like to make a motion for project design approval. And I guess if it's okay, I'd like to incorporate the comments, but in a way that enables the project to move forward, and perhaps those issues are conditioned to come back for consent. Right?
No. You're giving it project design approval, which is the equivalent to what used to be conceptual approval or preliminary approval. So what you're doing with project design approval is
So this isn't preliminary. This
It's
is
a preliminary.
conceptual.
Exactly.
This is conceptual.
This is conceptual.
Fine.
Okay.
Then I'm happy to make a
There are
motion.
details that are left to be ironed out.
Okay.
Am I wrong, staff?
Mr. Chair, I think the question is the way you framed the motion or the
I didn't
comments.
frame it.
Oh, well, okay, the summary of study versus provide details to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So I would recommend just phrasing the motion to say, provide these details to achieve whatever you want to achieve.
Okay, and we are talking basically, it's comparable to conceptual approval, and that they would come back for preliminary
This is
final.
project design approval. The expectation is they would go to complete construction drawings and iron maybe an in-progress review for these details.
Okay.
In other words, what we're giving them is a project, and we cannot go back on certain. You got it.
I got it.
Great.
So I would, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for a project design approval with the comments that you outlined, and just changing the word of study to incorporate provide in the detailing.
And I'm trusting Ms. Feliciano can wordsmith that without me having to go through everything again. Thank you. We have a motion by Winnick. Anyone?
Second?
Second by Boucher. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let me get a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed?
Nay.
We have 3 oppositions, Schallenberger, Sharp, and Drury. Do you need a reason for the denial? You don't? Okay.
Well,
And
abstaining.
abstain?
No.
So motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Under discussion, yes, Commissioner
I would
Reyes.
appreciate it if the minutes would indicate that the applicants will come back with the criteria for the warrants, so that it becomes a formal thing that is not lost in the...
Okay, so if that's okay with the maker
I'm
of the
happy
motion.
adding
No,
that.
I don't want that in the motion. I want that as a separate
Okay.
statement after.
Okay.
That's not part
You
of
could,
the
okay.
motion.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry.
All right.
Let's just
There you go.
cooperate.
I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess.
So, motion carries.
concept review. Item number 3, Mission Creek. This is a proposal to widen Mission Creek between Cabrillo Boulevard and Highway 101 and replace existing bridges. This is part of the Lower Mission Creek Flood Control Project. This was was it here before?
No,
Not this one.
Not this one.
no.
I beg to differ.
It's
It
a
was
different,
here.
it's a different,
Okay, so I don't need to read the minutes.
no, I believe not, yeah.
Okay, good. Now I have some scratch paper. All right. If you would please introduce yourselves for the record and give us a brief presentation.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission.
If we could please give the applicant our undivided attention, thank you.
Thank you, that's okay. John E. Lawson, Project Engineer with the Public Works Department. I'm also the city liaison between the city and the county's Lower Mission Creek project.
Welcome.
Matt Griffin, County Flood Control.
Welcome.
Matt Griffin, County Flood Control.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. This agenda item is a request for project design approval of the proposed channel wall, expanded habitat zone, and a reconfigured parking lot on 135 Kimberly Avenue. This is the Lower Mission Creek Flood Control Reach 1B project. Just give you a little background or orientation, excuse me. Reach 1B is actually adjoining Mason Street Bridge, which you guys all heard.
So it's upstream.
Yes, upstream.
From Mason
Upstream
Street
it is.
Bridge.
It's right here between Yalanala Street and Mason Street Bridge. And even though the Lower Mission Creek Flood Control Project has been in progress for several years, it wasn't until recently that the County Flood Control agreed to fund the entire construction project. But even though it's a funded project through the county, it is a joint city-county effort to construct the Lower Mission Creek project. That also includes constructing the bridges. A real brief background on the regulatory approvals. In 2001, City Council approved the Lower Mission Creek Flood Control Projects, EIS, EIR. And in 2008, Planning Commission approved the Coastal Development Permit. I'm going to go straight into the project plans now. What's being asked for project design approval. Excuse me.
Oh, yes.
Hold on one minute, Ms. Arias. You don't have to
Okay,
extend that
I'm
if you
sorry.
just keep the length that I gave it to
Only
you.
if you want to.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Susan.
Okay.
You want to thrash me within inches of my
Yes.
life?
Question.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Question.
Commissioner Arias.
We have on our agenda as concept review new. We do not have project approval.
Project design approval.
No, we do not. It says concept
Okay.
review new.
He stands corrected.
Okay.
Well, what does staff have to say?
That's how it's agendized.
I guess that's a mistake. That should have been project design approval.
Yeah, but it's how it's
But it's-
agendized. We can't change the agenda, can we?
No.
Well, is it a
If they
notice-
provide-
a noticing issue?
We can't change, yeah, it's,
Well, often if action can be taken, it can be taken. However, it doesn't matter how it's agendized.
well, it does.
Unless there's noticing.
Yes.
If there wasn't, if the noticing was done, action can be taken.
You've taken action on new items that
Okay,
have new,
because it's not noticed. This is a non-noticed project.
it's, I'll let the
It did not have to be,
commissioner
it did not
answer
have to be noticed because it's part of an overall larger project.
That's all we needed to hear. Thank you. Continue, and I apologize.
Okay. Okay.
What is it?
It is, we can give it whatever we want other than final.
Okay, whatever.
Well, we could give it final if they have enough information, but I doubt they do. I'm sorry, continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. We'd like to just restate that we are requesting project design approval for the Reach 1B project. Thank you. Okay, going back to the plans. The purpose of the Reach 1B project is to widen the Lower Mission Creek channel from the existing 35 feet wide to 55 feet wide. As part of the widening project, a new channel wall will be constructed on the east, thank you, east side of the creek, shown color-coded on the plan here as green. Construction of, or actually reconfiguring the parking lot that will be impacted by the REACH project on 135 Kimberly Avenue, and construction of the expanded habitat zone that will be integrated with the downstream Lower Mission Creek with Mason Street Bridge. What you see in front of you are the project details of the wall. County staff has sat in the Mason Street Bridge agenda item previously heard by the commission and has taken note on the texturing of the walls, as well as the request by commission to review the sample panels for the walls. County has duly noted that since they were in attendance with the Mason Street Bridge project. These details are consistent with the previous channel reach walls of Reach 1A, as well as the fencing on top of Reach 1A. What's being proposed on these plans are the spearheaded fence walls. However, county is open to any type of fencing on top of the walls, whether it be the spearhead or the
call it post and rail.
Yeah, post and rail. On this sheet, FC12, we have.
Hold on.
Okay.
Everybody there? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, members commission. On this sheet, FC12, this is the reconfigured parking lot on 135 Kimberly Avenue due to the impact of the widening of the creek. 135 Kimberly Avenue is currently owned by the Funkies, Alex and Eric Funky. The Funkies have provided authorization to the county to reconfigure their parking lot. What's being proposed here are 6 parking spaces. What I'd like to show you is the existing configuration right now. For your information, so you have something to compare to what's being proposed and what's existing.
May not be overlaid, but we still see them side by side. Thank you, Kathy.
It's been work real well.
You know what? Let me see if I can get this the right orientation. So your drawing, it's more like that.
Let
me just. This is Mission Creek here, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize for not providing copies of this. This is actually a record drawing, and we tried to make copies for every commissioner. However, the resolution of the copy wasn't very great, so we brought the original with us. So there's actually 9 existing parking spaces on the Funky property. What's being proposed is 6 spaces. I understand that there's some concerns of reducing the parking spaces, but it has been through our planning division staff, and planning division staff determined that it would be a legal non-conforming type of configuration.
Which 3 spaces you eliminate?
The 3 spaces that will be eliminated are what you see on this sheet, 1 and 2, and what's the other one?
Most likely number 7.
Yeah.
Number 7 is being eliminated, but we're adding another one here.
Okay.
And then basically 5 and 6 are kept, and these 2 are being reconfigured so that this is a handicap spot. So essentially, a new one here, 5 and 6, 8, 9, and then one here.
So really only losing 2.
There's 9 existing, and there'll be 6 proposed.
Yes. So what Mr. Griffin was talking about is, here's the proposed configuration of the parking lot.
Okay.
Okay, and what I want to also point out is here's the expanded habitat zone. At this time, we do have a preliminary planting plan The planting that's being proposed on the expanded habitat zone will conform to the EIS-EIR as well as the landscape plan approved by the California Coastal Commission. Just for the Commission's information, here is the proposed species in the expanded habitat zone. Before I conclude my presentation, I'd just like to show the existing conditions out on the site. We have photos that are provided to you. The first sheet, which is an 11 by 17 sheet, are different views of the creek. This view is looking upstream from Mason Street. This view here is looking downstream from Chapala Street or Yalanali Street. I wanted to point out on this view here, the existing wall on the west bank will remain in place. So this will be preserved as part of the creek widening project.
What is the material of that?
It varies. There's some sections that are concrete. There's some sandstone sections.
Okay, thank you.
And there's the bridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going on to the next set of photographs.
Oh, you would do that with
I apologize for that, Mr. Chair, but this is, we wanted to show a real-life wall finish that we could find, and Reach Wineries is the best example we have. Again, I'd like to point out that county was in the audience, so they've heard all of commissioners' comments regarding the textures of the wall, and they too will be providing advance notice or invitation for the commissioners to review the sample panels as well.
Okay, I'm going to push your paper off the...
Here's the proposed fence here as well. Here's the ball finial of the fence. It's little details of the fence here. Lastly,
Hold on to that. Looks like a carrot. Thank you.
Lastly, going back to the Funky property, these are existing photos of the parking lot shown on Street View.
Okay. I think we pretty much understand that.
Anything else?
All finished?
Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, I will open public comment. Okay. First member of the public to speak is Mr. Callum DeForest. That's okay, Mr. DeForest. Just go ahead and start speaking.
Yes. Good afternoon again. I'm a little unclear what the purpose and who it serves of the parking area. It would be nice if, just visually, if the entire parking, if the parking isn't needed for anything, that could be landscaped. Also, as to fencing, it is my opinion that obviously we need fencing so people won't be falling or jumping into the creek. It should be as visually fading into the landscape as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. Seeing no other public, I'll close public comment to the commission, and I think we're going to start with Commissioner Schallenberger for questions.
How close to construction are you, would you say?
Optimistically, we're hoping to construct this summer.
Okay, and just for clarification, this expanded habitat area, that's going to be a new graded, excavated bank? Is that
Yes.
how that occurs? And then replanted in that area?
Yes.
So this wall does come basically up to the sidewalk at that point?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Winnick,
Just two questions. One, on one of the drawings, maybe it was FC6, let me just go backwards. There was a drain showing, I guess it was the second page, the drainage ditch. Where is that?
Hold on one second, let me get to that
It's
page so the
FC8.
camera can see it.
Yeah, FC8.
FC8. The V ditch.
Yeah, where is that occurring? Well, we can go to the plan, I guess, and figure
Okay,
that out.
so we're looking at this, the V ditch, detail G. Where does that occur in the
That
plan?
occurs behind the back of wall, so you can sort of see it outlined here. And this is to accommodate parking lot drainage. And then it will go underneath the sidewalk out to the street, which is the way the drainage currently exists.
Don't you have to meet SWIP requirements, Ms. Kennedy, for filtration and retention, and not just convey it right off of the property?
I'll have to check on that.
Okay.
They wouldn't on the new parking area, I don't think. We're just,
Okay.
I'll check for you.
Okay, and my second question is just on the proposed fence, in this case is showing as a picket fence, metal picket. Do we know, I've confessed to being confused from the last presentation, are you coming up against a picket fence from the Lower Reach project that was just beneath it? Do we know it's the same kind of fencing?
We conditioned the last project to make sure that the fencing did match upstream where it joins, or that it was thought out.
Yeah, I realize that, but I'm just, like, what is your understanding at this
Yeah, my
point?
understanding is we're coordinating fence type with the bridge project. And certainly here at the downstream end, our wall will have the same railing type as the bridge project because they meet at that point.
Okay, thank you. That was my other question.
Commissioner Arias.
Yes. Do you have to operate under any warrants?
Not traffic warrants, no.
All right. Will this reduce the floodplain map in the area?
Yes.
And you will be notifying residents of this effect?
That will only occur at the completion of the entire project, which it doesn't have a schedule, a definite schedule as of now.
What is the capacity of the 55-foot wide creek?
Sure. In general, the existing creek has a capacity of about 1,500 cubic feet per second.
I'm talking in terms of storms.
And
25-year, 100-year?
About a 20-year storm.
20-year storm, as I understand.
Which is equivalent to 3,400
So you're now going up to what year storm?
The existing channel has about a 5 or 6 year capacity.
And it will go up to 20?
It'll go up to 20, yes.
5 to 20. Okay, also, I would ask you to very seriously consider...
We're under questions.
All right, you do have plans for removal. I can change.
You can. I was happy to see that because it just switched like that.
You do have plans for monitoring and removing of graffiti?
We'd have to consider that. I think the plan is now to make the creek inaccessible.
That's lovely. Poison oak is wonderful.
I don't think it's in commercial cultivation.
Oh, I don't know.
Who's going to
So those are my concerns, and I seem to remember floodplain work being done on this over 20, 25 years ago. Am I incorrect?
Not as part of this project. I mean, there have been piecemeal bank revetments over the years, but it probably was not an overall creek capacity project. No.
Thank you.
Commissioner Murray, questions?
Can you talk a little bit more about the lights and all the different things that are being removed, and you're just going to put them back? Is that...
Yeah, the exact locations are still being discussed with the property owner. He has, I'm not sure if there's a picture of it, John, but there are some existing light standards out there that he wants to maintain.
Yeah, those
and
are
so we would utilize those for the parking lot reconfiguration.
Do they show up in any of the photos?
I believe so.
Good timing it around.
There's one.
Oh, this?
Commissioners, it looks like it's camouflage in the tree right here, but it's right here where my
Where is that? Oh, that
Do
one.
those have a historic significance?
I
Commissioner
think
Ryan?
so, if they're in the neighborhood.
Well, I seem to remember some of them being signed that this is an original route of something or other. Anyway, okay.
Carried through.
Just be careful.
Commissioner Sharp?
No questions.
Commissioner Boucher, any questions?
No, I don't.
Commissioner Drury, any questions?
Just a couple. I'm assuming, I really can't tell from the plans. I'm assuming you're not just creating a concrete culvert with no top. I mean, the crease will have habitat, will have slanted with keyways to stop the walls from eroding and major flooding.
It's a open. It's an open bottom, so there's no concrete at the bottom of the channel.
So it's going to be. We spent a lot of time on Mason Street. I'm assuming that the landscape that's been approved on the Mason Street Bridge will sort of segue into the same kind of landscape that you're proposing.
Yes, I believe that's the case.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know how many cross sections do we?
What type of tree are you removing? You're removing an existing tree.
I believe it's a jacaranda tree. Yeah, there's 4 large palm trees in the street right of way that are staying.
Okay. All right, we'll go to comments. Commissioner Schauenberg.
So the reason I was asking about the proximity to construction is, does that mean you have a contractor on board already?
No.
Okay. Heading toward. I'd like to see. Well, okay. The project is completely supportable. It's not nearly as. I don't think it has the impact. I see it only as a benefit to the creek and to the neighborhood. So totally can support the project. But I was asking about construction because perhaps, given the timeline, maybe the sample could be part of the final design approval. So if we could get a test panel prior to receiving final, that would be beneficial for this and the previous project. But if you're not out to bid and all that probably will not happen. But that would be the ideal condition, is if we could see the test panel and approve that as part of your final design approval. Heading forward here. And I don't know if are you looking for a modification, support of a modification for decreased parking, or we don't need to do that? Okay. That's it.
Commissioner Winnick?
Pretty simple. One, I guess I'd encourage you to figure out the drainage issue, and then relative to that V-shaped drain. And then the second issue is, just because I think, let's hold the standard high enough here about the documents. It would be nice to have cross-sections to answer Mr. Jury's question, Commissioner Jury's question, about what's happening with the landscape as it goes down into the culvert. So if there were a couple cross-sections cut through there, we could better see how the grade is being handled if there's boulders at the bottom and all of that, much like was shown on the previous project.
Could I answer?
Nope. I'm sorry, not until after everybody gets to comments.
Except I would offer, if you think it's covered in the drawings, sure.
I think there is something in the drawings, yes.
Tell me what page.
At the back of the 2 landscape plans that we saw.
This section?
Okay, so you're saying the typical cross-section shows
Yes.
that you have boulders at the bottom. Yeah.
Everybody see that?
It helps. I guess I'd encourage you, since you will be coming back further, it would be nice to see more sections through there, but you're right. This at least gives us an indication that you're going to be consistent with what's downstream.
Okay.
So thank you.
That's not the critical section.
This is.
Commissioner Rios?
You don't think that's
I think it's a supportable project, and I'm glad to see that some additional flood protection is being given to the area. I would like to make sure that the fencing matches up with what is downstream. The lights are something else that would need to be, for better word, illuminated, but showing what they're going to look like. The parking lot, I don't know if you could work with the people who own the house to make it out of permeable surface. That might be save your runoff, and it also is good for the soil in the creek. Look at the graffiti problem. They're very talented in getting around, so if you can be a defensive on that, I think it'd be a good idea. And let's see. I also agree about a cross section, having those. And we'd like to work with you, and if there are problems, please work with us and not sidestep us to council. There, I said it.
All right. Commissioner Murray?
I agree with all those comments, and so in addition to those comments, I'm wanting the whatever lights that have to be removed, or show them well in the plans, pictures, where they are, because those are historic elements of the neighborhood, and we can't really just move them without some sense of analysis. So I would appreciate that. Thanks.
I'll be with you in a minute, Mr. Sharp. Commissioner Sharp.
I just want to make sure that the two projects are as seamlessness as possible, and the fencing and all of the gunite work and all that. If it's done at different times, it could be a problem, but I sort of wish we'd seen this with that to make sure that the landscaping and everything is contiguous, but that's the way it is. Thanks.
Commissioner Boucher.
I agree with the comments that have been made. I have nothing to add.
Commissioner Drury?
I'd like to ask a question, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Is it possible to, as far as the Mason Street project goes, that you, both projects can work together in terms of the landscaping? I think Commissioner Sharp's point is well taken, that it needs to be a continuous effort up the creek, the viewshed. So not two projects. If they can be planned at the same time, they grow up at the same time, then it becomes seamless. I think that would be my comment. I can support the project also.
Okay. I'll summarize the comments then, and I'll look for some commissioner to make a motion if they agree with the comments. The project is supportable. Provide a landscape plan for the parking lot. Provide more sections of the creek. Coordinate this project with the bridge project Reach 1A, especially with respect to creek vegetation, wall material,
and railing,
and fence material.
Give me a
Okay. If possible, provide samples of the faux sandstone wall prior to HLC final approval. Resolve the requirements for stormwater management. Study permeable paving in the parking lot. Strive for graffiti-resistant surfaces. Provide species and photos of tree to be removed. Provide locations and photos of light fixtures to be relocated. That, I think, pretty much sums everything up. If somebody would like to make a motion to that.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for design approval.
You're on a roll.
With the comments that you've just elaborated.
We have a motion by Winnick.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion, second by Sharp. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. You understand the
done.
motion?
I think so. Great.
You're headed in the right direction.
Okay.
If I may add, I know the county is grateful also for the Reach 2B project. Just for the record, we just like to thank Commissioners Drury and Commissioner Schallenberger for reviewing the test panels for the parking lot on Reach 2B. Thank you.
Is that train station?
The train station, yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to call 5-minute recess.
What did we tell them on the previous?
Historic Landmarks Commission meeting of February 13th. We are out of recess. The next item is item number 4, 1117 State Street.
I gotta go. Okay.
Okay, this project was last reviewed on December 5th. It's a proposal to demolish the existing facade and the construction of a new facade on the State Street elevation. Last it was here, I said it was December 5th, and the motion was continued indefinitely with these comments. The commission is in support of the project. The roof pitch in the center section should be a lower slope. The parapet at the top of the roof should be expressed in plaster, more like the original proposal. The commission accepts the height of the sill across the front elevation. The eave line on the upper roof plane shall be as low as possible and closer to the tops of the windows. Study changing the false chimney to a real buttress. And I actually misread item 4. It was the eave line on the upper roof plane should be as low as possible. If you would please introduce yourself for the record and give us a brief presentation.
Yes, Richard Six, LMA Architects. This is the 1117, the P. Crosby Ross building, and you approved it in concept, and we have not changed that concept except for the comments that were made. Let me go through some of the items that were mentioned.
So, put your mouth closer to the microphone.
We're hoping to obtain final approval today. I don't know if there's much here to go over on the floor plan. As you remember, the vestibule was moved from the center to the upper bay, so we got an asymmetrical look at the facade. The open vestibule here will be tiled in a brick tile that will match and flow with the public sidewalk tile. We will have 4 downlights in the plaster ceiling in that open vestibule with decorative paint geometric pattern around the downlights. We, as we get to the door poles will be a black patina with the exploded scroll.
Those are handsome.
All of our corners and so forth will be bull-nosed, and drip edges will just be scored in the plaster. The higher windows will have a stone sill, and as well as the bases on the house. So here's where we're going.
Hold on 1 second. I maybe to the page. Okay, go ahead.
So we have taken the roof slope down and exposed the plaster band above. If we just skip over to the section here.
3.1?
Yep. 3.1. If you remember, our proposal was to go all the way up and down again with a roof. We can't get any closer. As you can see, we're bird mouthing here right at the concrete, so we're down as far at the plate height here, but we've lowered the slope and exposed plaster at the back and introduced the bookends of turrets at the ends again. So if we go back to page
A3.0,
you can see those bookends and so forth. I think last time there was discussion and very well concerned about the base. So what we have done, I think there was a discussion about the height of the base. I think there was something else in the drawing. We had done throughout both the insets of the windows and surrounding the columns and pilasters, we had introduced just one continuous type of material. Now we are proposing to, on the window insets, go with the more traditional tile on the insets, and then on where the bases and the pilasters are proud of that wainscot, we will go with a honed limestone, which will harmonize with the white wall and make these pilasters more elegant, long, and in better proportion. So I think that will alleviate that well-pointed-out concern last time we were here. Seated glass, as you know or don't know, let's go back, if I can hop again, to A31.
Hold on, let everybody get there.
The previous design, you walk into an open space and there are skylights high. We're going to maintain the center skylights and have a interior light well that will reflect the light, and this is all interior now. We will do a skylight of frosted glass inside, as well as we will appreciate that sun and glow on the arched windows at the two-story, and it will be a seated glass, so you won't see direct all the mechanics behind, but you'll get that glow during the day, and we plan to light up that sky well at night, so there'll be a glow on the outside, and we will paint that interior well with a warm color, so it has that warm glow. A very, I don't know how close you want to follow on. If we go back to A3.0.
Hold on. Everybody there?
Over there.
Okay, go.
For our colors and so forth, very traditional colors. The tile, the sash will be a dark black green. Again, the wainscot below the windows and the grout. Wall color, the honed sandstone again. Dark paint above for the wood trim, the eave beams and decking. Copper, of course, on the downspouts and flashing. Then on the back, we have taken off the modern or international trim and so forth, and made a more traditional surround to the opening. We will be introducing our canvas awnings with very traditional open-ended design. If we hop to
what page?
A40.
You'll see that we've introduced a twisted support for the awning with a spear head and a slightly arched drape of the metal supports for the canvas itself. Traditional 4x3 rectangular downspout and tapered conductor head.
This is genuine copper.
Yes. Instead of painted? Yeah, they'll be genuine copper. And we've, our turret will have a little finial of glass reinforced concrete. And then the back If we hop again, sorry. If we hop again over to the rear elevation, there exists now some attic vents that are metal, simple louvers. We will be taking those out and putting the glass fiber reinforced concrete grills and so forth. Yeah, right now you'll see.
CTV, if you could zoom in, please. Okay.
So what?
Thank you.
So what these will do is just paint out with the surround and just have the negative space read. Very traditional and calculated cuts on the beam ends. Thanks to Tom Burdett.
Concludes your presentation.
That's my presentation.
I will open it up for public comment. Seeing no member of the public, I close public comment. Bring it to commission for questions. How about Commissioner Drury?
I do not have any questions.
Commissioner Boucher?
I don't have a question.
Commissioner Sharp?
I do have a couple questions. Number one, can you go over the property line with that detail?
Good question. I know that we can on one side.
This side.
On this side, because the ownership is the same.
Right. Just a question.
Yeah.
To ponder.
No, my answer is no.
Thank you. Your leader boxes have a little swoop-de-doo. You said a 2x3.
3x4.
Downspout coming down. Why did you bring this leader head down so far in lieu of being up closer to the eave?
Don, this is a significant overhang. This one is very short. If we look at the profile, a 3.1.
Oh, I see. Okay.
We're way out here.
Question answered.
And here we're really tight. Also, I would like to have those down a little lower, but I'm faced with, the logistics of getting over the concrete and so forth.
Well, if you're over the property line,
it won't be a problem.
You could put that in the comments.
Commissioner Murray, any questions? Commissioner Arias, any questions?
One thing, the chimney's gone.
Oh, yes, excuse me, I
You
did
didn't
not.
mention that.
I didn't.
That's on A30.
We chose just to very simplify it. We didn't like the buttress type of thing. It gave a notice to it. So we are taking the same exact molding and just making it a different height wall. So it goes away.
Thank you.
Commissioner Winnick?
Yeah, mine's slightly trivial, but at the base of the building, you show this limestone that you call the homed limestone at the base of the columns. Is it too much of a maintenance issue to just let the plaster come down to the street in lieu of doing that?
I feel that the home plaster is less the honed plaster. The honed limestone is a better maintenance and tougher.
Right.
It also gives a nice, subtle enrichment.
Well, then let me ask a different question. And I know we're not supposed to be doing comments, but I don't like the division down the middle of the column between the two pieces of stone that you see. So I'm curious, is it possible to get the limestone as a large piece so that you wouldn't have that division? It doesn't look traditional to me.
It will have to be custom cut anyway from local manufacturers, so we can look at that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think also that I will further detail a ease of the edge at the top, and it's slightly proud of the plaster.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schomburg, questions?
Yeah, also slightly trivial, but I'm really interested in these terminus details at the upper roof. I think those are really nice details, but I'm just curious how some of the decisions were made and
or not.
Well, maybe, yeah, we'll see. But if you look at C on A31, I think you get the best sort of look at how it integrates with both the tile roof coming up into it from the State Street facade, and then also the cornice cap, parapet cap detail, how it engages. So question was, how did you determine how low to go with this bottom, the double arch bottom? How did you determine that lower height there? Was that just to get below the scallops adjacent, or I'm not sure how that was determined.
Well, by the seat of our pants.
Just a proportional thing?
Yeah, just a proportional thing.
And then at the top, having it looks like you want it to sweep into the cornice cap there as opposed to staying up above and sort of letting the cornice cap die into and terminate into the buttress. Is that the intent, or just trying to continue that line?
Yeah, it didn't seem like, it was kind of behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed easier to, more straightforward to not get complicated with the ups and downs of the rubberized waterproofing and so forth.
Oh, good point. Okay, and then I'm going to beat this one more time.
Sure.
But if you look at the detail itself on 16, A4,
detail 16,
there's a side view. It shows like a lower cornice cap, but I don't see that in the elevations or that section view that we were just looking at. I'm not sure what that lower...
Yeah, that's drawn incorrectly.
Okay.
Okay. This one here.
Yeah.
Something like that.
No, if this is the molding behind, it would go all the way up.
Okay.
Good eye.
Thank you.
Comments. We'll start with Commissioner Murray.
I like it. I have no.
Okay. Commissioner Sharp.
I like the bookends.
It's a good project. I have no further comments.
I'm sorry, I forgot to ask my questions.
Too late.
Okay. Then I'll just make it a comment.
You can ask those questions.
Did you study the terminus of, for lack of a better word in my vocabulary, the terminus of those corbels? They seem quite a bit simple to me for the building. Maybe you want them simple. It seems to me that they could possibly pick up on the detailing of the gable corner, but maybe you don't want that.
I think, let's see if we can search that out. That's 14A0.
So you're just coming down to a very simple OG.
There's really not that much difference in those two planes, and to get another third dimension going, it seemed too busy.
And then, what is the detail of where the honed stone meets the sidewalk? Drip screed, or hopefully you don't have any drip screed?
Well, if I have a bead on how the, let's see.
Actually, I think maybe that is that.
What page you on?
I'm looking for the detail of where the honed limestone meets the ground or the sidewalk.
The only thing we have reference to it, and I did think it out, we might blow it up here, but we are simply...
Take a look at 1A4.1, your very last page.
1 and 2.
Oh, there it is. He did put it on here. So, first of all, the exterior patio now goes and flushes with the sidewalk. We will be finishing that out, leveling it, of course. We will set the stone right onto the brick, and my faith is that we have a little weed screed right there, and that it'll weep into the sand underneath the brick.
And what would that weep screed dimension be?
Oh,
The gap.
It's right at, it will be right at the sidewalk.
So there would be no gap.
There's no gap.
Okay. All right. Comments will continue. Boucher, Commissioner Boucher.
Well, I was looking for something really difficult here.
Can't find anything.
Trying to find something to pick at. I think he's doing a beautiful job.
Okay. Commissioner Drury, comments?
Can I have, I didn't get my questions. Nobody asked me any questions. So I have a question, Commissioner.
Okay.
Feel free.
You'll have to help me with the architectural name, but
Do you want to direct us to a sheet?
A3.0.
Yeah, it's the facade of the building, the arches, and they terminate in halfway down the corridor. Okay. Do those terminate? Are they just at right angles?
No, we already discussed that.
I'm asking.
I know, but we already answered that question.
And what is-
we're not paying attention.
Well, I was trying to pay.
Oh my God.
Out.
You were doing architecture Eve.
It is detail 14 on A40. So it has an OG detail that brings it back to the plane of the wall below it.
Okay. Thank you.
Comments?
Yes, I like this project very much. I like the simplicity of the rear elevation too. I think it's not a very attractive facade now. It is. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Schaumburg, any comments?
I like the project very much. I think it's well thought out and studied, and like which I stated at conceptual level too, and nothing's changed to change my mind. You might study that one little thing, keeping that top of above the termination. There might be a construction issue, but it seems like those cornices want to die into something square,
Do
rectangular.
you want that in the comments? In
No,
the motion?
just a comment for the applicant to study.
Commissioner Winnie.
Actually, I do want that comment in. I agree.
Okay, can somebody then phrase it?
Yeah, so just on the two little, I guess it's detail 16A 4.0 with the finial pieces that are the two corners, would be to maybe have them raised so they sit just above the rest of the roof so it has something to terminate into. Right now they're coplanar, and we're proposing that they be a little bit higher.
I'm sorry, just so I understand, are you talking about these two?
I have to come see.
No, this is all pulled up.
So the alignment, okay.
We're saying that this would be a little bit higher
Okay.
to give it a chance to terminate. And then I also support the idea of going with a single piece of limestone at the base of the columns, and the fact that you were talking about doing a detail to bring it out proud of the plaster. I'm in favor of. And I also just want to comment, I think this is a really nice project, and it's a huge improvement over the building that's there. So I'd like to applaud it and say that I'm happy to support the project.
Commissioner Rios.
I support the project. It's an excellent job.
Okay. Is that anyone else? I'll summarize the comments then. The Commission supports the project. The simplicity of the rear elevation is appreciated. Resolve the architectural projection that crosses the property line. Try to get a single piece of home limestone to avoid joints on the face of the stones.
At the pilasters, or at the piers, yeah.
To avoid joints on the pilasters.
Whatever, so you're good.
The face of
On the face of the pilasters. Okay. Avoid joints on the face of the pilasters.
I should hope so.
And on detail 16, sheet A4.0, raise the decorative finial above the adjoining surface.
Raise what?
The decorative finial above the adjoining surface. Anybody?
Mr. Chair, can we refer this to the consent calendar?
If the maker of the motion wants to do that, that would be fine with me.
I would make a motion that this matter be referred to the consent calendar with the concerns as stated by the chair.
Okay. So would you be giving it then final approval
Yes, I
with
would
the
be.
details and the concerns to
I
address?
will second the motion.
It'll be PDA and final.
Okay, did we
Continued.
did PDA? Yes, we did.
Yes.
Continued,
2
how
weeks
long,
indefinitely.
Richard?
2 weeks is fine.
2 weeks to the consent calendar. Maker of the motion, Arias, seconder, Boucher. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Great.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Citrus. Next item on the agenda, and we're right smack on time, is item 5, 336 West Cabrillo Boulevard. Are you the applicant?
Good thing. Nope, didn't get that fast enough. Hey, we can throw this one out, huh?
It's a good job, Richard. Thank you.
Let's go for the basket.
Oh, absolutely.
It's gonna be nice. It's
As
gonna be
try as I
beautiful. It's
might,
gonna be
I
nice
could not see
building.
that detail below the portals on any of the plans. The numbers didn't make sense.
Well, it wasn't drawn properly on the exterior elevation. You should have had
That, well, that's what I kept seeing.
It looks so abrupt.
You need to take a recess for technical.
Susan, you might have use for this. I don't know. It got left behind.
I thought
Gratified
maybe
to
I'm
hear
just
that.
missing something.
So
Project requires environmental assessment and coastal review. It's a proposal for alterations to the rear elevation of the existing three-story hotel. The work will include 3 new pairs of French doors and a new elevator tower, and the conversion of the existing interior floor area to 8 new guest rooms. There are 92 existing parking spaces with a parking requirement of 69. The site is a designated site of merit. Is Ms. Hernandez coming? Or is she needed?
probably.
Okay. All right. Please introduce yourself for the record and give us a brief presentation.
Okay, my name is Tai Ye, and this space used to be an Andrea restaurant, and the project, the space has been vacant for quite a few years, and we are revisiting the previous design, which has the similar proposal back in 2001, which received the building permit back when. Because the Beachside Inn hasn't done any work since then, the permit has expired. So we are coming back to revisit the same design, except we're not going to do as much. We have simplified the project, and I will go through the scope of work.
Let me ask if any of the commissioners currently on the commission recall reviewing this.
I do.
Ms. Boucher?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
I wasn't
With
here.
another architect.
But this is considered a new application.
Yeah, it is. I just
It is,
wanted to
yeah.
know if somebody had some.
So this is the existing restaurant floor plan. What we're proposing is not to alter any exterior elevations towards Cabrillo, and just do conversion of the space into 8 guest bedrooms, and providing a much needed handicap bathroom for the entire facilities. And also, because the inadequacy of the existing elevator, which is not ADA compliant, we're adding an ADA compliable elevator on this end. This is the same setting as approved back in 2001, except the elevator used to be out here, and this mechanical room used to be a bedroom, and we took that out. And second and third floor remain the same, except where the elevator comes up, we will have a little bridgeway to connect to the existing walkway. So, well, this south elevation is the same. We're not going to change it. So, looking from the back, we will see the elevator tower coming right above the existing structure for 2 floors, and add a couple of French doors towards the back end. And these are the 2 sides which you cannot see from any of the streets, neither Cabrillo nor Carrillo.
So the elevator tower does not.
Not visible from
Let
any
me
of the.
finish my question. The elevator tower does not extend beyond the ridge of the existing building, just as you've drawn it there. It does
Well, I have to verify on that, sir, because there should be at least 4 to 5 feet of headroom. So I may be a little shy on that, but in any event, it would be lower than this main ridge.
Because the main ridge is taller than the.
Correct.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll open public comment. Seeing no public, I'll close public comment and start with questions from the commission. And how about starting with Commissioner Rios?
The view rooms. The view rooms.
Any questions?
Of the parking lot.
I've got to hear what other people say.
Okay, Commissioner Murray, any questions?
Yeah, so is the elevator, the tower is outside, or it will be built inside the building?
On the first floor is part of the existing structure.
Okay.
But then when it comes up to the second and the third floor, it would be outside.
Commissioner Sharp, any questions?
No.
Commissioner Winnick, any questions?
Actually, I do. Boy, you're kind of mixing it up today.
I
know. I saw that smile. So I just have a question. I'll just bring it over to the photograph. Is this photograph the back elevation that we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to turn it around so the camera
Okay.
can see
Oh,
it.
that's
Sorry.
fine. So the elevator, in fact, would be going right here?
It's going to be
in
right here.
the back corner. Okay, and then the French doors are going here.
Yes.
What's happening with that opening?
We're gonna fill it in or replace with a window.
I see. So in other words, that will get filled in, and that becomes this.
Correct.
What is that?
This is where this is right now.
I see. Okay, so it's off to the right of
Yes.
that. And that'll be infill, so it won't look like that? Those lines would disappear?
Correct.
Okay. Now I understand it better. Thank you.
Commissioner Boucher, any questions?
No, I have my question answered. Thank you.
Commissioner Drury, any
I do
questions?
not.
Commissioner Drury, you sure you don't have any questions?
Wait a minute, let me.
Thanks.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Let's start with comments from Commissioner Winnick.
I mean, this one's a hard one. I don't like the building. But, you know, the work that's being proposed is at the back of the building, which, you know, I take that in. I mean, you're very good about noting that. The fact that the elevator is sticking out as a protrusion, I'm not terribly happy about, even though it's on the back of the building. I do think the French doors are a great improvement, and I think that infill at the lower level is a great improvement. So I like to see those. And I'm not quite sure what to do about the elevator. I wish there was a solution where it could be taken more inboard into the building rather than sitting on the exterior. That would be my comments.
Commissioner Rios, did you have any comments at this time? I can move.
Yeah, I don't like the building either. I'm sorry. Also, I don't like the
Rooftop equipment?
Yeah, rooftop equipment, yeah, at all. I'm looking to see if there's a way to do something.
Put an elevator in front of it. No,
Yeah,
sorry.
put an elevator in front of it, yeah. But I guess I'd really like to see some extensive landscaping. If in doubt, plant it out, you know?
That's the parking lot.
But I look at this and I think it's bleak. And I really would like to see a good landscaping plan. Sorry.
Commissioner Murray.
Yeah, I had very similar comments to Commissioner Winnick. I also would see if you could study, well, the height of the elevator, like you say, should not be seen, but it just, to me, it's just so tacked on to the building, and so if there, I guess you've looked into that, how to incorporate it inside the building, and that's the best. That is the only possible way.
It used to be the elevator. It protrudes out even more. I brought it back.
Okay, that's good.
That was
Yeah.
She phrased it a little bit like a question.
Yeah.
So-
And landscaping. Yeah, I don't know if there are any opportunities or not, but
Ms. Gantz, I need your expertise. I don't know that this is significant enough of a project to require landscaping.
It
I doubt
is not.
is.
It's just basically for on the exterior of the building. It's the
French doors,
Three
the
French
elevator.
windows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I believe
There's no nexus for it requiring
No.
a landscape.
Mr. Ye, I think the elevator is coming. The elevator tower is within the existing footprint of the building, isn't it?
Correct.
So it's not disturbing
Only on the ground level.
the ground.
Level.
And the upper levels, it's coming outside of the building.
Yeah, but I mean, if I may dash in here, it's basically doing this right here.
Correct.
Right.
So it's not touching the ground other than where the building is already built.
Exactly.
How does a handicapped person get to the
So they're-
second floor?
Via this elevator.
That's the whole intent of the elevator.
Okay.
Okay, so Commissioner Sharp, any comments?
Oh, I see. I got it.
Yeah, last time this was here, which was many, many years ago,
Yes.
I said at the time that I can't imagine a more difficult building to make look good than this one in town.
You're more
And I
politic than
feel
me.
exactly the same way. And I was wondering why you chose a flat roof instead of a sloping roof, if that would help blend it a little bit better into the rest of the building, which seems to have a 3 and 12 or some 4 and 12 pitch. 3 and 12 maybe?
For the elevator?
Yeah.
For the elevator tower, to have a sloping roof to tie in with the other sloping roofs. That would maybe
Would help.
help a little.
Yeah, I just respectfully disagree with you. I just think the simpler it is, the more it's going to just kind of fall into people's,
We could put a statue up there.
I don't know,
God.
but- Any comments, Commissioner Plachette?
No, I said we could put a statue up there, but
I'm going to write that down.
Please
I
don't.
don't think so. I was in Paseo Nuevo today and was looking at Henry's column.
Oh.
Does it have the statue on it yet?
Not yet,
Okay.
no.
Moving on, Commissioner Drury.
Yeah, I would like to know why this was designated a site of merit.
Because it was an old Shumash.
So it's not a structure of merit, it's a site of merit.
Site of merit.
Yeah. And help me, how do you pronounce the village? Suxtian?
Sixtuyan,
Sixtian?
something like that, Shishtuyun or something.
right.
This
I have
whole
no comments.
building is a
Okay.
monster.
I need to get a consensus from the commission on the feeling of the roof form of the elevator tower. Does anybody want to chime in other than Mr. Sharp? And you can agree with Mr. Sharp, thinking that it needs to be a pitch, or you can say it needs to be something else. But I do need to get a consensus.
And maybe this is creating a hardship for the owner. I don't know, but why is it just preordained that the elevator tower needs to stick out of the building? Why can't it be set within the building using a? I know it's taking real estate; it might lose a key in the building, but why isn't the elevator being placed within the building?
Good question.
On the upper levels as well as the lower level? I guess that's my question. I'm going back to a question, but
We have
Let's look at the floor plan.
Look at the second floor plan, will answer the question.
Call out the.
This is third floor plan.
The third and the second are literally the same.
Okay.
There's no way to put the elevator within the room.
Unless you lose a room.
Unless we lose the room.
2 rooms.
2 rooms.
You'd lose 2. Okay.
And
that's $150 a night times 2.
Right, that's $100,000 a year times 2.
Okay.
They were gonna try to squeeze in more rooms in this proposal. I talked to them out of it to just have 8 rather than 10. So, having said that, I think it would be difficult to take out 2 more rooms just to put elevator in at this point. And you were not only the upstairs, downstairs too. And you work out the circulation. It seems to be most straightforward.
Okay, I mean, it is on the back of the building.
Yeah,
I do realize that. I just feel like we're...
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Rios?
have you had any discussion with your applicant about the possibility of doing some landscaping? I know that it's not under our purview because it's a minor thing, but in the long run, doing some landscaping would increase the beauty of the building, hiding some of it, and increase the value of the building.
Sure.
So I think looking at landscaping would be a smart investment, frankly.
Landscaping does. And you'll have to
For
pay
the
out
purpose of
building.
elevator, unless the trees is 20 or 30 feet high, you will not.
Well, I was
But
thinking
it has
not.
to... Go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, you.
Okay.
It's your comment.
I think, I'm not suggesting that you do the elevator shaft with landscaping. I'm suggesting you look at the building and see if you could get some vine pockets in or some plantings, something to make it less boxy.
Her point is that in order... I had to do it anyway.
And it comes back to him anyway. And he's blushing.
He already knew.
Go for it.
No, I've stopped.
No,
It's
please
your
go
comment.
ahead.
No, it's your comment.
No,
I'm not
go
gonna-
ahead.
No, I'm not going to interpret your comment, so.
Well, can I ask a question to staff, Suzanne? There's a planter that actually is out in front of where the elevator is, and granted, the planting wouldn't necessarily cover and hide the entire elevator, but would we be entitled as an agency to make, the acceptance of an exterior addition to a building, even though it's on the existing building footprint, to include planting as part of the approval, say, within that planter that's already
To try
existing?
and screen the
Exactly.
new elements?
Exactly. Okay. So, for instance, we could...
You can't ask the owner to landscape his whole parcel just to make the building look.
I didn't ask that, but I mean,
No.
And that's not what she was saying.
I was suggesting some discussion between he and the owner, not making it a demand or anything like that. But I think from an economical standpoint, looking at that situation will increase the value of your building and soften its lines.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd be willing to make a motion if we're...
Okay, then I'm...
It does need coastal review, and
Oh.
the reason we cannot determine the level of coastal review yet is because David Stone is preparing an archaeological resources report for the work being done inside.
So it's comments only.
Because there is
So-
ground disturbance. So we just need comments.
So then I'll answer your question. I prefer the flat, just because the less this thing is, the better. But I also would like to see that we ask for screening to planting to be placed within that planter in order to do something about the elevator.
So, summarizing it, the French doors are an improvement to the rear elevation. The filling in of the existing mechanical door is appreciated. Study adding some landscaping to mitigate the elevator tower. And I don't think we have purview over the mechanical equipment on the top of the roof at this point.
It's existing.
It is.
Was it permitted, Mr.
I don't
Tai?
know.
Mr. Ye? Mr. Taille?
Me? I really don't know the history very well on this building, so I cannot answer that question.
Okay, you'll need to go check the street file and see if you can find the permit for that.
Mhm.
And if you don't find a permit for it, then it might be something that needs to be approved by the HLC, and they will ask you to screen it.
Okay, so then my comment would be study the permitting of the existing mechanical equipment on the rooftop. And so those, I think, are the comments. If you, no, we don't.
There's
need a
no motion.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
No motion.
I got lost.
You can just indefinitely continue it. There's no action meaning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to propose that we indefinitely continue this item with the comments that you've summarized.
Second by Arias, motion by Winnick. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.